How are you all able to get to that competitive level every single game?
Um, the same 0-0 mindset we've been talking about. We know what it takes to win a basketball game. You got to come out with a lot of energy, throw the first punch, and we know it's a 48-minute game. So you're going to go on runs. The other team's going to go on runs. It's just how you stick with it.
Cason, you had 3 steals the other night. I know defense is where you hang your hat every single night, but have you felt yourself grow, particularly as an on-ball defender and kind of anticipating moves a little bit better now?
Definitely. I've played against a lot of these guys last year, so just a little more confident guarding them. A little stronger, a little bigger, able to be more physical as well.
Cason, how much of defense is mental and how much is physical?
It starts mental. You got to win that battle first, just not wanting to get beat. And then, of course, you got to be physically able. And, that does play a big part in it as well.
What all goes into that mental for you? I mean, preparation, intensity, I don't know. Like, how would you sort of categorize what that is for you?
First and foremost, probably like fearlessness, just not caring who I'm guarding, not caring who the other guy is, just trying to go get it. And then another part is like energy. You got to have good energy, want to fly around the court.
Cason, obviously, like, by the time AC joins you guys, he's already got a championship, so he's going to command some level of respect. But as far as, like Mark was talking about, sort of, I don't know the exact word he used, but basically recognition he gets in a locker room just for how hard he plays, that sort of thing. Is there a moment you can point to where you're like, okay, this guy sort of deserves respect outside of the championship, like just who he is, what he brings to the team?
Yeah, he got like probably the best hands on the team, as far as playing the passing lanes and, flying around on the court defensively. And then offensively, he's always talking, to everybody, not just one person. So just the level of leadership that he has on the team is very special.
What kind of perspective has he given you individually as far as, what it takes to push through a regular season, what these playoffs might be in store for, even though obviously you went through some of that stuff last year?
We just can't take any games that we're playing now for granted. Some of these teams are playoff teams, and we're going to want to, throw our best punch now so it could take some of their confidence later on.
Cason, it's not going to make any highlights, but the play last night where Jay will have the block into you, can you just take us through that play and then your immediate reaction laughing with him?
Yeah, that's my dog, so, we can laugh about anything. But, yeah, I was running in, and he just randomly wanted to block a shot that day, and he blocked it right into my face. So, yeah, it hurt.
Cason, you've had a handful of these run out fast breaks where it's kind of like you and a defender trying to beat you to the rim. What goes through your mind in those moments where it's like a sprint to the spot and you're going to have a chance to elevate over him?
I just want to beat him, I'm trying to beat him to the rim, and if he jumps, then it makes my life better because then I get the chance to dunk on him. But, if he doesn't jump, then, I have a free 2 points.
There's been a lot of stats coming out about just how well Lou's played this year, shut down a lot of the best offensive players in the world. Just wanted your perspective as somebody who's like really informed, like actually being in that position and playing with him every day.
Seeing the work that he puts in every day on the court, like defensively, I definitely think he, defensive player of the year. He guards and shuts down guys. They don't really have a night that they expect they will. The offensive player really got to, get motivated and sleep well at night before they play Lou. So, yeah, Lou gonna come with it every time.
Cason, I know nobody's in Shay's head except Shay, but you, I'm sure, guard him some in practice. He said recently sometimes when he's making a move to the basket, he doesn't really know what he's going to do exactly. It's sort of a reaction. How do you sort of feel that maybe when you're guarding him? Just the sort of elusiveness of sort of knowing what he may do, because maybe he doesn't even know what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's what makes it tough guarding him. He doesn't even know what he's going to do, so how could you know what he's going to do? So I have no advice for anybody trying to guard him. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you sort of realized that was the reality with him? Like, you know, some guys are wanting to do certain things, go to their strengths or whatever. Like the first time you were guarding him and you were like, oh crap, like he doesn't even know.
Nah, I don't know. Nah, I didn't know that's how he played. Like, you know, I thought like, of course you read and react to what's going on, but if he said he don't know what he's doing before, sheesh, it's tough.
Cason, most people think of shot blockers as big man, but you're really good at blocking shots. At your position, how do you do it? Is it an anticipation thing, timing? What makes you so good at that?
You can anticipate it sometimes. You know, you can only take 2 steps, so, you know, just time it up and, you know, get a block here and there.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Casey.
Mark, the other night, Shea was saying that, you know, the only thing that they see from you all, the coaching staff, from the front office, is like things that lead to winning. That's all that's kind of put in front of them, and so it's very easy for them to really only focus on those things. I just wonder kind of what you all are prioritizing in terms of making sure is in front of their faces on a day-to-day basis.
Well, there's so much other stuff. You know, there's distractions, and some of the other things are great. You know, it's your family, your kid. You know, some of our guys have kids now. You know, and there's a lot outside the building, wanted and unwanted. But when we come here, we want to create an environment where the guys can be super focused and strip away all the noise and be able to focus on their craft individually and our jobs collectively. And that's always been a strength of this place. It's a great environment. Sam's done a great job of establishing hard boundaries around that. And then we have great people here that can keep everyone incredibly present, starting with the guys.
There's kind of a cliche about, you know, teams being hard to guard because it's so complicated, but it seems like you all, just off of that answer, really try to simplify things. Can you maybe speak to the philosophy behind that and how it works in practice?
I mean, we're trying to be complicated for the opponent, but we certainly don't want to be complicated for ourselves. And that's the trick is, you know, how much can you keep things simple in your world and complicate things in theirs. And we are always looking for ways to try to do that. But we would err on simplicity, you know, if we could only choose one, because it keeps the guys playing aggressively and confidently and free in their heads. And that's been a strength of this team. You know, they go out and they play. You know, I don't think they have a lot of like psychological, you know, things weighing them down, and that's a good thing. We need to preserve that. You know, even as we head towards the playoffs, when overthinking becomes more of a trap.
Mark, I know Alex has tried to live in this space where he's like still a teammate, part of the team, but also like giving his perspective. I know it's easy to just point toward the championship he won, but like what other perspective is he giving his team that maybe they didn't have last year?
I don't want to make it about this year and last year. I think the thing about him that I will always lean on is like credibility. You know, like it's less about what he says, how he says it, what he's accomplished. It's like he's just so inside the team all the time. Like he's so team-centric, team-focused, and he's always in character on that it gives him just immense credibility. And then he goes out and he plays. You know, he competes every single second of the game. And so he's just got so much credibility. I remember when I coached him when he was a rookie, by like the midway point of that season, we had like former NBA players on that team. We had older players on that team. Midway through the season, like he was like controlling our huddles as a rookie. And it wasn't because of anything other than those two things. Like he's competitively present and he's always inside the team. And when you are those things, and he's not the only one out here, you know, we have plenty of other guys like that. But when you have those two things, you have immense credibility in a locker room.
Mark, I read somewhere recently that Shea made a comment that when he drives to the basket, sometimes he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do. I know you're not in his head, but can you sort of explain how that happens and what advantage maybe that gives him?
Well, you got to understand the amount of instincts he's built up now over time. I mean, he's got a lot of miles on the car. as a player, not only prior to coming to the NBA, but he's played a lot of NBA minutes now. He's had the ball in his hands for a long time now. So he's seen a lot of pictures, and he can trust his instincts at this point. There's not much he hasn't seen. And I do think as time's gone on, he's just played in more and more of a flow, which is a combination of confidence and experience, which obviously go hand in hand. But he's put the work in, he's built up his confidence, so he doesn't really waver, even when things aren't going great on an individual play or stretch of a game. And he's got the experience where I think he can just trust his instincts, and he's doing that right now and playing in an unbelievable flow. I thought last night was quietly one of his best floor games of the year. I mean, he just took exactly what the defense gave him and had complete control of the game when the ball was in his hands.
Go ahead.
Even though he may not know exactly how he's going to react to something, what do you feel like is there a non-negotiable with him, sort of consistently on drives, like one or two things that maybe in your mind he's saying this has to happen regardless?
I don't want to speak for him. Yeah. I don't want to ever speak for these guys, but the thing that I think he's improved on over time is the speed with which he's playing inside of action. So in transition, he's faster than he's ever been from a tempo standpoint. Inside of the actions, he's faster than he's ever been. When he catches on the perimeter, he's quicker to make a decision. And I think what he's learned, he became so good as an ISO player that you are tempted to commit more bodies to him than just his primary defender. And I think what he's learned is the faster he plays, the harder it is for not necessarily the primary guy, but for the secondary guys to set. And he kind of beats the help, with the speed he's playing with. And I think that's really helped him. That's been something that he's worked on continuously, and he's only improved that over the last 5 years.
Mark, just a quick follow-up on what you said about AC. You mentioned his credibility, and you said he was commanding huddles as a rookie. How do you remember that he sort of gained that credibility that early? Like, how does a guy acquire that early? Like, why are people listening to him?
The two things I said, he's always competing in the moment. He's never not ready to play on a possession, never mind a game. He's ready to play every game. He's ready every single possession, like, without fail. He's never like he'll give up a back cut, but because he's aggressively helping, not because he's sleeping. He's just never drifting mentally in the game. He's always competing, and then he's always inside the team. It's just always team. It's not stats, it's not shots, it's not roll. Last night he's playing against a team that traded him. He spent time there, and I didn't play him till the second quarter. I go to him before the game. I'm like, hey, you're going to start the second. And he's looking at me like, yeah, like, whenever he doesn't even know what I'm getting at with. I'm just like making sure it's good. And he's like looking at me like I'm crazy. He's always in character on that stuff, and so. When you do those two things, when you compete and you're inside the team, no matter what your role is, no matter how old you are, that's how you gain credibility inside a team. And your team knows those two things. These guys know that about each other better than anybody. And when you do that, you have the respect of your locker room.
Mark, I know rhythm is important for all these guys, but for Chet, given the amount of time he missed, how important is that for him right now?
Critical, but not something to be forced. It's like you got to take it as it comes, and you got to take it step by step, and he's got to work back. He's not fully himself yet, and he's missed some time even here recently with a couple maintenance things. But we can't you can't force rhythm. It's like, you're at a wedding. It's like dance better. That's not going to help. You just got to let him dance to the music. So that's what he needs to do. He just needs to dance to the music.
Shea has talked about the value of Isaiah Joe as just like a great spacer, and it seems like those two have built a really nice relationship of working off of each other, showed up a lot last night. How have you seen that kind of that symbiotic kind of relationship grow with those
Shea and Ijo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ijo screening for Shea is like one of the staples of what we've had here the last 3 years. When you talk about pet things that we can go to and know that it's good and know that it works, that's one of them. And they have a great chemistry on that. They've been in a ton of those reps together, and this year we've we've drifted from that a little bit in the interest of developing the team. It's like we've moved Daigneault into the second unit a little bit more because it's allowed him to expand kind of his repertoire. We've had Shea with more 5 screens, especially with Hart, than he's had before, to give him the exposure of that. So there's been like a little bit of a developmental intention behind that, but they definitely like rekindled the fire last night. I mean, they had it going in that part of the game.
Mark, the push shot, Isaiah's push shot. You don't see that a lot in basketball, and obviously he's got it down to a science. What makes that hard? I mean, as you think about shots that guys perfect, like what does he overcome to get that to a point where it's as automatic as it is for him?
I mean, ask him about the work he's put in. I mean, he's a craftsman. He's a great worker. I couldn't give you the history of. I mean, he came in with that pretty primed up, so I don't really know. But it's a good shot for him because, he's a great screener. And with 5s that roll, you think about like a guy like Duren with Detroit, is a great speed roller. And so a lot of Duren's stuff is, he'll hit, but he gets out of the pick and roll quickly and he gets out ahead of the ball. And, when you run out quickly like that, you sacrifice the contact in the screen. It takes longer to set contact screens. Then there's guys like Isaiah. He'll run out, but he sets a lot of contact screens. He's a great screener. He's got a great feel for that craft. But when you screen to contact, you're often behind the ball. And so he's often coming into the play late, and he's not out ahead of the guard, and that's where you can drop it back to him, and he can shoot that, if the guard doesn't have anything else prior to that. He does both. He can run out of them, and he can screen to contact and trail, but he's got solutions for both. He can catch lobs when he runs out, which we've seen plenty of this season. And he can also trail in and make that shot and makes him very dynamic in the pick and roll game.